Hello, and welcome to a video in which I am going to set up, demonstrate configuration of the Dolby Atmos renderer application, the standalone application, not the one built into Pro Tools or other DAWs. And I'm going to configure it for use with Pro Tools or another program such as Dolby Atmos Album Assembler, or to play back ADM files, or for whatever you might need it for. All right, diving in. I'm in Pro Tools for the moment because I just wanted to mention two things about Pro Tools. If you're going to use Pro Tools with the external Dolby Atmos render, not the internal, you'll want to go to Playback Engine and change it to Dolby Audio Bridge, because the Dolby Audio Bridge is how you transfer audio from Pro Tools to the Atmos render. Now, I'm not going to be doing that in this situation, so instead I'm going to quit Pro Tools, that's the second thing to tell you about the Dolby Atmos bridge. At least in our studio here at Nescom Control-C, we have an HDX card for the computer. Oops, wrong thing to open up. And a matrix interface. And I need to make sure only one program can talk to the HDX at a time, so I need to quit Pro Tools so the Atmos renderer can speak to the HDX card. So you have to quit Pro Tools if you want to use the external render. I'm not going to save this, and then at the same time over here, I'm going to open up the Dolby Atmos render, and if you're working in Control-C, perhaps you followed instructions earlier in the semester and you put this in the dock so you could open it up. Well, here it is in all its glory, the Dolby Atmos render, the standalone version. And what does it do? Well, it takes an Atmos file or an Atmos signal, audio being sent over from Pro Tools or another application, and it's an object-based, multi-channel format, Atmos, and it decodes it, it renders it, it spits out to whatever speaker format you want. Here it's defaulting to 714 here, but you can change to 5.1 or stereo or binaural headphones or whatever you want to do. The renderer takes that multi-channel Atmos information and spits it out in a channel-based format for listening. So that's what the renderer does. Diving into the setup, which is what this video is really about. If you get any pop-ups that say, do you want to allow renderer to find devices on local networks? Yes, say yes to that. If it asks you to access the Macintosh microphone, say yes to that. A couple of those pop-ups, be ready for those, that's okay. And let's go into the preferences and set them up the way we need it to be for here working at Nescom Control-C. Your audio driver is going to be core audio. Your input device is Dolby Audio Bridge. That will be the audio input that you want if you're working with Pro Tools. Audio output here at Nescom, we want to select HDX. If you're out in YouTube land watching this video, you want to select your audio interface, whatever that might be. Set your LTC input channel to 129 if it's not already that way. That's the channel you want to send timecode over from your DAW, such as Pro Tools. Frame rate, set it to 24. Sample rate, 48 is what we do here at Nescom. I know you can, Atmos supports 96K now, but everything we do here at Nescom is at 48K. You can leave the speaker and headphone delay defaulted at 22 milliseconds. We do not have any bass management here at Nescom, so leave that off. What is bass management? That's when you have a subwoofer assigned to every main speaker and you have a crossover between them. A much more complicated setup. We don't have that here at the studio. Headphone render mode. This is where you pick what your headphone output's going to be if you send your render somewhere. Do you want it to be stereo, stereo direct, or binaural? I set it to binaural just so we can hear the Dolby Atmos binaural. Headphone tracking. If you have a headphone tracker that works, you can turn it on. We don't have one here at Nescom, so leave it off. Output limiting. This is a debatable thing. The Atmos render, this particular piece of software, has a pretty ugly, bad-sounding limiter. But you want to leave it on so when you're checking your mixes and if they're too loud and they're triggering the limiter, you want to hear what it's doing. So leave it on. Outputs. Yep, we're here for speakers, so leave them on. Headphones, if you're using the headphone output, you may not need it, but either way, you can turn it on. Headphone only mode is when you're working without speakers, so I'm leaving that off because we have actual speakers here. Re-renders, this is whether or not you want to spit out a stereo version or 5.1 version. I have it on. You can leave it on, although we're probably not going to need it here at Nescom. And the loudness, this is for monitoring loudness and seeing how loud your mix is. Your metering, absolutely have that on. Other, sure, prevent delay sleep. And spacebar, that's up to you. I do remains at current position. That's how I, actually in Pro Tools world, I kind of do that. So maybe I'll use that one. So that's it for the preferences. And set them up this way, and you should be good and ready to work. The next thing to do is the setup, at least here for NESCOM, monitoring in 914. The Atmos render by default supports 714 and smaller. To configure for 914, you go to Setup, Room Setup, and it takes a few minutes to look at this, but what's going on here is it's showing you all the common loudspeakers that you might have in an Atmos configuration, and the ones that are in color are the ones that your room has. So this is a 714 room. To add these wide channel speakers to get to 914, I have to click on either LW or RW, and now they turn color. They colorize, so that means they are now, supported, that I can now use them as a speaker in my speaker configuration. So the other options is, click on these if you have even more speakers to add, which we don't here have at NESCOM. Go to the routing tab next. So the routing tab allows you to pick what output of your interface feeds what channel or what speaker. And by default, it's set up the way our room here is at NESCOM, where the correct channel numbers are fed to the correct speakers. And when you get to the new speakers, left wide and right wide, interestingly enough, the numbers are correct because output 13 of the Atmos render does in output 13 of our interface, and DADMAN in between does feed the left wide, and output 14 reads the right wide. The problem is it doesn't seem to work right. I set it up exactly. I was like, wait, great, these outputs are exactly how I want them. And then I played my file, and the wides and the height channels were all discombobulated. And it took me a couple hours to sort the mess out. And I think it might be a bug in the Atmos render, but I don't know. It's just not sending out the correct outputs. And I made a file with a channel check file, and I checked all the meters, and everything is right except here. And so what I ended up having to do is make the left wide output 9, even though it's coming out of 13. And then, so this goes 9, and the right wide has to be on 10. They're in pairs. Then the left top front needs to be 11, and the right top front has to be 12, and the left top rear has to be 13, and the right top rear has to be 14. And once I did that, even though these are different numbers than the actual outputs in the studio, the software seemed to work. So kind of baffling, but I got through it, and this is definitely what you'll need to do at NESCOM Control-C unless they change the software. But you will want to go over here and add a new layout for 914 because it's not there by default. So I click Add Layout. I'm going to name it 914, 9.1.4, and it's going to have all the speakers in it already selected. I don't need to take them out, right? Because the new wide speakers have been added. So I hit Accept. And up here, you can now pick, render changes your Atmos signal to whatever output format you want. This is where you pick that, and you've got 714, and you'll see the 2 meters disappear from 914, and I go back to 914. Those 2 meters are added. So that's how you set up the program, and I'm pretty sure I got through everything I needed to for Atmos setup render setup here at NESCOM. I think that's the basic stuff, and I've got other videos for how to use this, or I'll be making other videos for how to use this software. But anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.